What's up, ladies and gentlemen? I'm recording a couple of videos today because it's probably the only day I'm going to get off this week, and I want to make sure I have some extras. So I still have that cold that I had in my last video. This video is going to be about the importance of ritual and whether it's actually important or not. I did a post on Facebook yesterday, I think it was, talking about how the real point of magic is not the manifestation that you're trying to get, but the performance of magic itself. The acknowledgement that you have this authority that you can try to change and bend reality and play with the symbolism and play with the ritual structure. But on the other hand, I would also say that complicated rituals are not necessary in the slightest. Now, they can be helpful, and I do them, when I feel it's right. I don't refrain from doing them, but I don't feel that it's necessary to go into an elaborate multi-hour ritual or maybe multi-night ritual where every night you do another stage and stuff like that. That's not necessarily always required, especially when working with goetic spirits. Usually, if you're going to do that, it's more along the lines of you invoke them every day and you work with them for a little while and then you put them down, like almost like going to class, because these spirits like to teach you things. They like to teach you and work with you. When we say I'm working with a spirit, what does it mean? It actually means that you're calling upon them once a day, once a week, whatever your comfort level is, and you're sitting down with them for a while in trance, and you're working with them. They're teaching you things. They're giving you visions. Maybe you're channeling them. Maybe you're just sitting there staring at their sigil for a while, and trying to evoke them or something, or whatever it is. You're working with them on a regular basis. And so if you're working with an entity, generally speaking, you don't have to do much in the way of ritual, especially with goetic entities. Just drawing their sigil on a piece of paper and charging it and using that as a gateway that you can go through or that they can come through for you, that's usually more than enough. A little bit of incense, an offering of some sort. Do it on your altar if you really want to do a good job, or draw some kind of a design on the ground so that you have some kind of something to focus on. I'll draw a circle around myself to charge with energy, and then a triangle to put the sigil in for the gateway for them to come through. I don't evoke them into the triangle. I'm not trying to contain them. It's literally just a way for them to come through, and it gives me a little visual cue of where it is, and it helps. But they're not constrained to that triangle in the slightest. So when you're doing ritual with goetic spirits, there's not a lot of ritual to it. Honestly, all it really requires is going into a trance while staring at their sigil and opening it in the astral realm and calling to them, intoning to them. You can use S. Connolly's ends, or if you don't like those, just use their name. You can write spiritual poetry about them if you want. I include some of that in some of my book. It's nothing complicated. It's probably not even very good, but it's just something to get you started. You literally just recite this either by reading it and feeling the energy, or just intuitively say what comes to mind. Malfa, so great Malfa, spirit of the air, spirit of the night, come to my ritual chamber, see my ritual signs, and speak to this spirit as if you were really trying to call it with your intuitive self. That's the extent of ritual that you need to undergo. In fact, most of the rites that I perform for money, I can perform in anywhere between, we'll say, 15 minutes to an hour. Depends on the rite. It depends on my mood. Generally speaking, all the ones I've done so far have taken less than 20 minutes. And that is simply because it doesn't require a lot of time to do the basic work that's required. More time and energy goes into the preparation, talking to a client, getting set up, getting an idea of what they want, maybe sitting down and meditating on it for a little while, especially for Eye of the Storm. That one, by the time I'm doing the rite, I already have a pretty good idea of what I'm going to do, and then I go into the astral realm, into the void, and I find, and I verify, and I find any additions or any corrections I need to make, because it's not required for you to do deep ritual to do magic. It's really just not. It's more fun and it's more energetic, and that's my point with my post the other day. It's more about doing the magic than it is about getting the result. So when you're doing an elaborate ritual, it's more about doing the elaborate ritual than it is about getting the result from that ritual. Now, there is a caveat to that. Ritual can build a lot of spiritual energy, and simple rituals don't necessarily have less or more, but generally the thinking is that a short ritual doesn't involve as much energy. Now with goetic spirits, that doesn't matter so much because you're kind of just opening a gate and they do the rest. And they cooperate with your own subconscious and your energy. They're doing a lot of it. You're doing some and they're doing some, but they're doing a lot of the grunt work. If you're not working with a spirit of some kind, you may need to do more in terms of energy generation. You may have to really charge, like if you're working with a candle, I don't know if I have one here. We'll say I'm working with this dagger, okay? And I want to charge this dagger with my intention. Maybe I want to use this as part of a protection spell or something like that. So I'm going to, in my ritual, once I've entered my trance state, I'm going to hold this and I'm going to charge it and I'm going to squeeze it gently and I'm going to just push my energy into it while breathing into it. And I want to see this in the astral realm and I want to see it start glowing and getting stronger and brighter. And I want to make sure that glow contains the intention of my ritual. So if this is for protection, maybe I'll make it white light, or maybe I'll make it green light or blue light. But I'm envisioning this with a protective aura around it. And then I'm going to one of the things I'll do sometimes is I'll go into like a VR mode in the astral realm where now like, I'm literally releasing this and I will kind of let go with all of my fingers except for one, for example, and I will just visualize in the astral realm that the spirit of this dagger is now being released in the astral realm to create a ward that is circling around and protecting me and flashing this way and that to protect me. And that is how that would work. Becoming a servitor essentially. A very simple servitor, you can get as complicated as you want. You can get a jar and you can you can actually make the dagger an anchor for a very powerful and long-term servitor if you want. But if you just need a short-term protection for part of a ritual or something, you can do that. Most magic is really about what's going on up here and in here and out here. It's the mind, body, spirit, holistic trinity of self that you need to invoke in some capacity. Now, longer rituals of different cultures do this different ways. When you're doing really long form ritual, from some other, I don't know, just pick whatever system you want. They almost always follow the same pattern. There's a mental, there's a physical, and there's a spiritual element to what they're doing. They have candles, they have wands, they have an altar, they have a mental picture that you're supposed to have. They have an astral realm you're supposed to visualize and feel. Well, there's no difference between what I'm doing and what they're doing, except I just cut out all the useless fluff and just go directly into an imaginative visual state of ritual, and I do it that way. So really, when we're talking about how important is ritual, it's all a ritual, but how important is big, long, rituals? Not necessarily very important. You don't have to spend hours and hours and hours. But again, going back to what I was trying to say before was, the more time you put into a ritual, the more time and energy you put into preparation and such, it can be a double-edged sword. You can, on the one hand, increase the energy manyfold because everything that you're doing, especially if you're using rare and precious materials, you're increasing the amount of importance and belief in the situation. On the other hand, by doing that, you can create more opportunities for you to get distracted and screw up. There's a lot more chances for you to do something wrong or for you to waste your energy on trying to concentrate on something useless. Now, let me give you an example really quick. Where is it? Give me 1 second. I'm going to dig into my stuff here for a second. There it is. Okay. Just bear with me 1 minute. I'm going to give you a rare look at my grimoire. Doesn't happen very often. Nice leather-bound grimoire. It's pretty cool. There it is. Okay, let me find a good example. Pretty early on, I have one actually. Because I eventually start simplifying things, but let me give you. No, not that one. There we go. Okay. Now I have in here one of the earlier rituals that I set up last year. It was meant to be something my wife and I would work with. Because she was new to this, and I felt like she would probably enjoy. No, I can't get to the right page. She would probably enjoy something a little bit more involved that isn't just the way I do things. She might really enjoy a more complete ritual. So here we go. So this is a ritual I had designed for Malphas, okay? And you can see I have, page and page and page of stuff. And a lot of this is just spiritual poetry that I designed more for her benefit, because generally when I work with a spirit, I will just chant its name and I will think about it and I'll think about its aspects and so on. But I have this whole, ritual set up here. And, I have Malthus, wise and sly trickster, black of wing and azure of eye, the eyes are sharp, see me, heed my humble call, see my signs. And I have like this whole thing I go through. And I do postures and I do all this and I grab a candle and push energy into it and so on. And that can be really powerful, but here's the problem. Unless I have this memorized word for word, or unless I'm comfortable reading it and it doesn't break my concentration, I'm setting myself up to potentially fail, because now I have to go into this book and I go, oh, what did I write here? And you can mess yourself up. This is why, a lot of systems will require you to really practice and train a long time before they'll let you run a ritual for a group, for obvious reasons. But it has been my experience that all of that's not necessary. I can take this whole thing, rip it out, throw it away, call upon Malthus anytime I want just by calling to him. But the more complicated your ritual structure is, the more energy you're trying to put into a spell, the more chance there is for you to distract yourself or to give yourself a problem, because maybe, like I said, maybe you're reading from a book and there's a misspelling, or maybe it's your handwriting, or maybe you just don't understand what the word means or something. And, that's usually the sign of a dabbler, someone who's doing it that way. Someone who's really comfortable doing magic for themselves, they don't have that problem, because they're usually working from the heart. And now that's either because they've memorized the spell or because it's literally coming from their intuition and their feeling. So you can tell when I'm really in the zone. Like at first, I'll kind of bumble around a little bit. Like if you ever watch one of my rituals, which you may never get the chance to do, but if you buy my services, you might notice this. At first, I keep it very simple, and I just I feel the energy. I prepare the altar. I start, chanting maybe, or I stare at the altar. And then once I start feeling the energy rising and I'm getting connections and I'm doing that, then I'll just start speaking from the heart, and it'll just start happening, and the ritual will just happen. And I never do the same ritual twice. I'm going to tell you that right now. Anyone who asks for one of my rites, if you were to get it one week and then get it another week, chances are you'd get two different versions of it, because I always do things a little differently based on what it feels like. Certain things will remain the same, certain elements will be the same. So for example, if I'm doing a rite to Malthus, I will almost always utilize my statue of Malthus or another analog for it. If I'm working with Belial, I will almost always use a stone that I have selected for him. I put it away so for safekeeping. I don't have it in front of me right now. Well, anyway, it's a nice piece of garnet, which has a nice red hue to it, and it reminds me of Belial. It's a very strong garnet's a very strong stone, and I usually build the tower on it of other types of stone to represent his ability to kind of shake your tower whenever he wants to. So I will utilize some of the same things. I will set up my altar the same way, and that's a ritualized thing. However, again, keeping in mind it's interchangeable at any time, and the ritual is fluid and flexible. I'm not a Golden Dawn practitioner. I'm not a Thelemite. I'm not one of these people who has very specific procedures for everything. I am very loose, and I just flow with the energy, and I use more visualization. Essentially what I'm doing is if I'm doing it right, I am aligning my mind, body, and spirit, okay, to the same purpose, so that my body is acting in a way that's conducive to the magic, my mind is thinking about the magic, and the astral realm I'm visualizing as my ritual, the real center of my temple. One of the things that I intend to do as I get more professional with this, and when I move, my ritual chamber is actually going to just be kind of like an empty room. The intention would be to create a room that is black or has black curtains around it, completely black, floor to ceiling as best as possible, with my altar probably chest level or close to it in there. Instead of seated, I'll be standing. And that'll be the focal point, with a couple of candles around the room just to provide lighting in a trinity shape. And everything's going to be happening on the altar or near it on other tables. It's going to be very simple. I'm not going to have a lot of stuff to distract me, because what I'm going to do, it's almost like a holodeck. I'm essentially just going to enter this ritual chamber, and once I start trancing out, the chamber will begin to be filled with the astral vision of what I'm doing. And that's when it starts to really get interesting for me. So natural environments are good for this, I find, because oddly enough, like when I go into a natural environment, what I like about that is the energies of nature don't interfere as much as like a room can for me. So if I go out into like the woods and I've got the right clearing in the woods, especially at night, okay, in between the trees where the candle light is illuminating them, or the bonfire, whatever's illuminating the trees, in between them you get like these portals into darkness. You can visualize it that way. And in these portals I'll see things, you know, entities will come and go. I'll see things moving around. Each one will be a gateway to another place in the astral realm. It's really cool. It's one of my favorite. That's why I like doing it in the forest. That's one of the reasons why when I do get to move, I'm going to hopefully move into an area where there's a forest nearby instead of this stupid almost urban setting that I'm in now. But yeah, you know, your rituals, how complicated do they need to be? For a beginner, probably a little bit more so, because you need to really get the energy moving, and you don't know how to do that. You don't know what's really necessary, so you tend to do it by the book. But then as you start getting more comfortable with it, as you start getting more comfortable with working with energy, you realize those are training wheels, and you take them off and you just start doing your magic from the heart. And magic done from the heart, that is how it's done. That is the secret. It's not a mechanical operation that has to be done the right way. You know, that's what I get all the time. People say, what's the right way to call? The right way to call a spirit, or the right way to do magic, is magic from the heart. One of the earlier magic spells I did, not the first, obviously, but one of the earliest ones I did was I wrote a letter to a girl I had a crush on, and I wrote it in the present tense. I said, you know, you are my girlfriend. We're together. Blah, 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 blah. And I sealed it with blood, and I folded it up, and I burnt it on a fire. And I forgot about it. And I didn't know what I was doing. This was literally just something I thought sounded poetic, right? Lo and behold, it works. You know, I mean, it wasn't a very good relationship. It only worked for about a week. But the point was, is it worked. And was it a magic spell, or was it, you know, did I do it right? Well, yeah, I did it right, because it came from my heart. It came from my truest intention was for this to work. And so it did. Now, you can also go too far in that direction. You know, sometimes people will kind of give chaos magic a kind of a bad rap, because a lot of chaos magicians literally just kind of do whatever and just assume it's going to work, and those are usually beginners, and they don't do it right. But a real chaos magician knows that's not what they're doing. They do look for patterns, and they do look for things that have meaning. They don't just say, well, this box of sandalwood represents the sandalwood incense, I'll just burn that. That probably won't work for you. You'll probably really need the sandalwood incense, because it's just it's too hard for your mind to process that much of a cognitive dissonance, you know. And that's usually the problem with chaos magic, is the cognitive dissonance of, you know, is something the correct correlation or correspondence, or are you completely just, you know, like forgetting it? So like, forget just the box of sandalwood being the incense. Maybe I'll just use this index card, and that's my incense. You know, that's too much. So that's not what chaos magic does either. If you ever, you know, because someone said today that, you know, chaos magic can kind of go too far, and I think in theory it can, but I think anyone who really practices it doesn't go that far. They have a rational reason for what they're doing, and so therefore it's going to work for them. Well, anyway, I'm kind of rambling now at this point, but I hope you got something out of this video. I will see if I can shoot one more today. This was kind of a long one, but I hope you guys enjoyed it, and you know, we'll see you again soon. Oh, don't forget, if you like what I'm doing, if you want to support me, check down in the description. There's links to FromTheAshes.com with my name after it. That's where you can find my magical services. If you want to do a consultation with me, I do a video chat one-on-one. We do this for at least an hour. For the amount you're paying there, it's going to be at least an hour. I usually go a little longer, whatever's comfortable for both of us. So you're going to get at least an hour out of me. We can talk about anything, how I do magic. You can get a reading from me. I will show you how I do my goetic work, whatever it is that you want to do. Or of course, you can purchase a right from me if you just want me to do it for you. That's perfectly fine. Also, you know, my book will be coming out very soon, so keep your eye open for that. And I'm going to be starting a Patreon. I don't know when, very soon, maybe even by the time this video's out. I will do an announcement for that special, maybe tacking on to the end of this video or something like that. So hope you guys are enjoying my content. Please like and subscribe and share responsibly. Thank you and have a good day.